The night. The wind refused to breathe over Beijing. That was the night bus 375 rolled into history. It was November 14th, 1995, ordinary Tuesday, yet the air felt wrong, as if the sky had lowered itself over the earth. The streetlights flickered for no reason. Shadows stretched a little too far, and in the outskirts of the city, where concrete fades into empty fields, the last bus of the night prepared to take its final journey of the day. People called it Route 375. Locals knew it as the last bus to the fragrant hills. By midnight, it would become something else entirely. The bus driver, Master Li, had been driving for 16 years. He believed in schedules, not superstitions. He believed in brake lines and timetables, not ghosts or bad omens. And as he pulled the bus to its stop, he tapped the steering wheel, bored, waiting for the final few passengers. Only 3 boarded it first. A young woman returning from work, exhausted and half asleep. An old man leaning heavily on his cane. And beside him his wife, quiet, gentle, the sort of person whose smile could soften a storm. Nothing unusual, nothing strange. Not yet. But 4 stops later, strangeness stepped onto the bus. The air changed first colder, heavier. The driver's breath curled in front of him. The lights buzzed. The engine stuttered. And then they boarded. 2 men, but not quite. Tall. Thick clothing, long hair covering most of their faces. Their movements stiff, unnatural, their eyes hidden in the shadow beneath their brows. They said nothing. They looked at no one. Tihei simply walked toward the back and sat, their bodies angled strangely, as if they were not entirely familiar with the act of sitting. The young woman felt the hair on her arms rise. Something about them didn't fit. Not with the bus. Not with the night. Not with anything human. But still the bus rolled on. Master Li watched them through the mirror, unease scratching at the back of his mind. They were Palatian, even in their clothes. Old-fashioned. Dusty, as if dug from the earth rather than picked from a closet. The conductor moved down the aisle, asking for fares. The couple paid. The young woman searched her purse, and when the conductor reached the 2 men in the back, they didn't respond. Slowly, almost painfully. One lifted his hand. Inside his long sleeve, something shifted. Like bones rearranging themselves, the conductor froze, suddenly unsure if she should step closer. But before she could decide, the old woman stood abruptly, pointing at her husband. "You," she shouted. "You thief! You stole my wallet." The entire bus jolted with alarm. Passengers turned. The driver braked. The conductor gasped. The old man looked stunned, terrified, as if he had no idea why he was suddenly accused. The argument exploded loud, chaotic, drawing every eye on the bus, away from the pale figures in the back. Master Li had never seen anything like it. The couple had seemed gentle, almost fragile minutes earlier. Now they were shouting, shaking, demanding to be let off the bus immediately. "Next stop!" The old woman screamed, gripping her husband's arm. The driver hesitated, but the desperation in her voice was unmistakable. Apodet Ober, the couple stepped off. Still arguing, the conductor shouted after them, "We will sort this, come back." But the woman shook her head violently and vanished into the dark with her husband. The doors hissed shut. The bus continued on. 10 minutes later, the conductor found her courage. She walked toward the back. Again! But the pale men sat motionless, staring at the floor, as if waiting for something. And then the lights flickered. Once, twice, then darkness. Only the moon through the windows lit the inside of the bus. The engine growled. The brakes locked. The entire vehicle shuddered, as if something massive had grabbed hold of it. "Driver, stop!" the conductor yelled. The bus had drifted off route. The asphalt ended. Dirt crunched under the tires. And then something whispered. Not outside, not inside, everywhere. A low, breathless murmur, like wind through a hollow body. The passengers froze. The young woman saw it first. The air around the pale men pulsing, vibrating, as if their bodies were not solid, but filled with shifting smoke. The conductor stepped back, her voice trembling. "Sir, are you all right?" One of the pale figures lifted his head. For the first time, light touched his face, and the bus screamed. Not the people, the bus itself. The metal vibrated. Glass cracked. Seats rattled. The driver slammed the brake. But the bus wouldn't stop. His knuckles turned white. The steering wheel locked. The road twisted into a barren stretch of marshland no bus should ever enter. And then, silence. Nothing. An empty road. A single tire mark curving into darkness. By morning, there was no sign of Bus 375. No driver, no conductor, no passengers. Only twisted metal burned so thoroughly it looked like charcoal was found deep in the reeds of the marsh. And the strangest thing of all, the fuel. The petrol tank was full, untouched, unburned. Scientists called it impossible. Investigators called it suspicious. Locals called it cursed. But the old couple, the ones who escaped, went straight to the police. And what they told them chilled the officers to the core. The wallet argument. Fake an Ali. A lifeline. A lifeline. We got off because, the old woman whispered, that man was not human. They said the figure's robe had shifted when the bus hit a bump. And beneath the fabric, there were no legs, no feet touching the floor. Only a hollow, floating torso, as if the body was filled with cold vapor instead of bone. The couple panicked and created the argument simply to get the bus to stop. It was the only escape they could think of. Their fear was real. Their shaking hands, their voices cracking real. The pale men were never found. The passengers were never seen again. The driver and conductor vanished without a trace. Only the shell of the bus remained, a warning carved into steel and fire. The official government explanation: a freak accident, a combustion, a public safety concern. But Beijing residents, they know better. They say something boarded that bus that night. Something disguised as a man. Something waiting for the darkest, coldest hours. Something that drags its victims into a place no map has ever shown. Some call it a ghost. Some say it was a ritual gone wrong. Others whisper of entities that move between realities, slipping through thin places in the world where night becomes a doorway. Whatever the truth is, one thing is certain. Bus 375 never completed its route again. And every year, on the anniversary of the incident, people swear they see headlights glowing deep in the marsh. A faint outline of a bus frozen in time. A ghostly figure seated at the back window, waiting. Because the night bus to nowhere may have vanished, but it never really stopped running.